Thanks Out Loud is firing up our mics, connecting those headphones as we search the community for words to expand upon. We keep the banter friendly, the conversation somewhat on topic, and have fun doing it. This week, we're spouting off about whatever comes to the top of our heads. Let's get into episode 89.
Like words. We're going to think about words.
Well, we're finally all back together once again, the three of us. It's kind of been an on-again, off-again situation, but we're all here, and we're ready to talk about whatever it is we've got in these show notes that we always throw together last minute. So, Matt, you actually want to talk about this last week, even though you couldn't make it, because that gosh dang, migraine thing came up.
Yeah.
And
the things you get.
Yes, those horrible things that I get. Haven't had one for, a week. 2 weeks, we're doing all right. Yeah, doing pretty good that way. But you have, of course, a gaming thing. Last week, or last episode anyway, Nate and I spent most of it talking about games without you. So I guess you get to lead us off with something game related.
Yeah, so not that long ago, I got a controller sent to me.
Congratulations, you got a controller.
I did not pay for this.
Oh,
this was a review unit that was sent to me.
Whoa! Somebody sent you something to review.
Yes.
So
yes.
You got
a
controller.
I got this with a screen on it.
Wait, what?
Screen
on a controller.
On the controller.
On the controller. So
really?
This is a OS independent as far as it runs on Mac, Windows, Linux, iOS, and Android.
Oh wow!
Everything.
Nice.
Do any of the features work in Linux?
Yes, sorry. Plug and play.
Okay.
It's plug and play. This actually shows up in Katie's controller tab in the system settings and all that stuff.
Cool.
So
you said it's
all the joys.
Wait, is it plug and play or Bluetooth?
It's so dongle. Unfortunately, this is the.
Okay.
Okay. So I mean, you're still essentially using it wirelessly, but you have to use their dongle to make it work.
Yes.
Gotcha. Okay.
So I use this in Chimera OS specifically, but it is USB-C plug and play across everything as well.
Nice.
The nice thing is, unlike a lot of the other ones, like Xbox Series insert controller here, that doesn't give you rechargeable batteries. This actually comes with a recharge stand with it.
Oh, wow.
Oh, nice.
The thumbsticks, you can actually pull off this particular case covering here. Yeah, case cover comes off. And these thumbsticks are Hall effects, so they're the magnetic ones that don't have the stick drift and all that stuff. Those are actually replaceable. So you just literally pull the thumbstick off, drop new ones in, and there you go. Fixed.
Really? Heck yeah. So does the maker of this, it's how do you pronounce the name of this company?
Manba, I believe, is how it's pronounced. I honestly don't really know because everybody seems to pronounce it different. That has
a little bit differently, yeah.
Mambo, insert however you want to say it.
So, did they sell the thumbsticks on their website, or you got to go somewhere else?
Here's the great thing: these ship obviously with the normal ones that are attached. They send you in with the box that you paid for and the extra pair of thumbsticks. So they come with the unit. So you get the recharge unit. You get this. This has the Hall effect triggers, so you can actually have more of the on-off kind of tabs on there. Programmable back buttons, like the Steam Deck has.
Nice.
The screen. What the screen does is it's all on board, so there's no OS dependent configuration. All the configuration can be done on the controller itself.
And that's what you need to
exactly. So you can switch like on Nintendo where the controls are a little bit different. Like instead of A being select, like on most Xbox and PlayStation controllers, or was X on the PlayStation, it's usually B is their version of select. You can flip those on the controller so it recognizes those type of stuff. You also can program all the back compatible buttons on the controller on the controller. So OS independent, and this requires no extra apps. It requires no ancillary OS dependent apps. So that to me is fantastic. And the fact that it works across everything is fantastic.
It looks like it's a little more Xbox style as far as like where the stick positions are. Yeah,
so this is definitely a much more of a Xbox style controller. This is not a PlayStation style controller, or a Nintendo controller. Actually, I'd say it's probably more like a Switch Pro controller, because they've done Switch controllers, but generally, Nate, you would probably get this reference more. It's kind of like the Atari VCS controller, but with the screen in the middle. So, as far as the modern controller.
Gotcha.
Really, for everything that it's got with it, the asking price makes sense. Yeah, good price.
Most people will choke at a $70 price point.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to lie. I'm cheap when it comes to everything.
Right.
But I think for what you get, it is a better buy than getting a first-party Xbox controller. Simply because if you are a PC gamer, now they advertise this mostly as a Switch or an iOS or Android controller. That's mostly what they factor it in as.
Okay.
I highlighted the PC aspect of it more because it works across everything, and that's what I love about it. So the $70 price point, that's fantastic.
Yeah, for me that price makes sense because you're getting extra switches for your thumbsticks. You're getting a rechargeable controller with the charger. Like, you don't have to buy any of that separate.
Nope.
So as far as I'm concerned, it's helping offset that price, because it's not like, okay, I have this controller, now I have to buy this accessory and this accessory. You have a lot of that out of the box.
You do. And I think the price is fair for what you get, and build quality is actually pretty good. They do actually have a white version, which I think looks really, really cool, but it's white and it's a game controller. White and gaming usually don't go well together because they get it's kind of like white technology in general. Go look at any Apple device that has solid white colors. They don't stay solid white very long.
Yeah, they get dirty. I wonder how well it would handle a rub down with some rubbing alcohol or something like that, how much it would clean it up as compared to not. This one does look cool because you can see through it. That cover is clear, so you can see some of the inner workings, which is kind of nice.
Yeah, so when you take this off, you can kind of see some of the workings on the black version, but the white has just a better aesthetic feel to it, I think. But for $70, if you're a Linux person, I would recommend this controller highly as a Linux controller.
Looking at the controller options out there, if I were to get a PS5 controller on Amazon, that's more expensive than this controller here.
Mm-hmm.
So now my question is, does that screen act as a touch input
No, it's not. There's no like the PlayStation controller, like the PS5 controller. The PS4. Yeah. No, it is not a touch interface controller in that regard.
Okay,
it
is literally would have been the cat's pajamas if that were the case.
That would have been, but it probably would have been much, much more expensive too.
Oh sure,
because because all the navigation on the screen is done by the home row buttons down here for all the configuration and all that.
Mm-hmm.
But again, for $70, definitely, if you're a Linux gamer specifically or gaming, I do like the fact they advertised Steam Deck support, which I was like, oh, so ironically, Linux support.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't support Linux, but it will support the Steam Deck.
Which I was like, well, seeing how I run Arch distro, so whatever. But yeah, $70 definitely worth it. The link is in the show notes and stuff. So for the controller, there is a white one. They also have a few different things. They have some MetaQuest stuff. They have some Switch controllers and a few other things too. So I think at $70. Oh, and for those that want the rainbow vomit, It has,
It's got it. Can you turn it off in settings?
Yes, you can.
Nice.
You can, but you can also have it set to solid colors. You can also have it set to like this one is set to the blue, but in like a what they call breathe. Aspect.
Yeah.
So stuff like that, totally configurable.
So would it be possible to, if we were to send one to Wendy to make sure that it was broken, so it'd always be in the RGB vomit stage? That would be ideal.
I would make sure it's in the breathe thing, always pulsing the entirety of that rainbow vomit.
Yeah, that'd be good. That'd be good. Yeah.
You can have no configuration whatsoever. But no, I'm not that mean. Anyway, so yeah, $70 if you're a Linux gamer, it's a no-brainer to me. If you're a PC gamer, no-brainer to me at all. Get it, hands down. Definitely worth it. So while I'm messing around with controllers and video games and stuff, Wendy, Nate, it looks like you're working on a new.
We look very different.
Well, I don't know. Do you?
We might both have a proclivity for the same kind of shoe, but that's the only thing that we have in common, really. Besides
shoe technology, 3D printing, robotics.
Okay, we have more things in common, but
she doesn't have a giant Gonzo-like nose on her face, though. See, that's very different.
No, it's plenty big.
Anyway, so while I was busy trying out new controllers and stuff, Nate, apparently you were busy getting a new sit-stand desk and some filing cabinets finally. So cleaning up the labs.
Nope, not the labs at all. So I have two. When I work from remotely or work from home, I'll either work out here in my CubicleLabs area, the studio here. I have a station over here, which I'll talk about later, and then I also have I'd work in my bedroom, is my other office. And when I built my desk, my standing desk for my bedroom initially, it was just what I needed. It was before I got the job as an IT manager, and the desk really served a perfect purpose. I had no issues with it whatsoever. And then, got the new job, got new demands and everything else. And so I kind of outgrew this little desk that I built. My screen's actually cantilevered off the sides of it, and it just wasn't big enough anymore to do the different things that shuffle around the different, things that I would do. So I decided I was going to get rid of a dresser that I wasn't using in my bedroom anyway, and get a sit-stand desk, a new filing cabinet, actually a couple filing cabinets, and then I had my printer in there. I brought my printer in my bedroom. It was sitting on the. That's all the dresser was really doing, is holding up a printer and a Commodore 64. And then, and also collecting the occasional pile of garbage too, because that's just what happens when you're constantly in this perpetual state of hurry, rush, get something else done. Anyway, I cleared all that stuff out, put a sit-stand desk there that I'll mostly be in the standing position, but I can lower, raise as needed. And I got it with a keyboard tray, so I could put my keyboard and mouse on that as well. And then I got a filing cabinet to put below there, where I'll have my different files and so forth, and different other. It has a couple of drawers that are not a filing cabinet, and then some shelves, so I could keep all the things I had on the previous desk on this as well, and just make it look nicer. It has a nice, like a nice rustic wood look, because I don't know, that's what I'm into right now. And so I got a cabinet that matched the desk, and then I bought it. Then after I did that, I'm like, wow, I could really use another one for the printer instead of this little table thing I had for it, and that really cleaned up that part of the desk, part of the room, I should say. And I'm going to replace 2 other pieces of furniture as well. But anyway. So it's really nice. It's 55 inches wide, 2 feet deep. Not very difficult to assemble at all. It was sub $200.
Nice.
Just for the sit-stand desk. It was really, really nice. The quality of it is quite remarkable for the price.
I would love it if you shared a link with me for that sit-stand desk, because the kids' computer needs to go somewhere other than a folding table.
I will provide a link. I got it on the Scamazon. So,
cool.
And then the reason I bought the cabinet with this, because I said it gave me like a $30 discount if I bought them both together. I'm like, oh,
nice.
And then, so what I spent on it, I'm very, very pleased with. So I set up in my 6 monitor setup, my dock stations, and then I realized I had space for another monitor, but then I thought, I think I'm not going to use this keyboard tray for the keyboard and mouse like I originally intended, but instead I used it to put my Commodore 64, and then I have my Commodore 64 monitor there as well, because that's what makes sense.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah,
I love the desk. It's great. Although now I wish I would have gotten the one that's just a little bit wider, even though I measured everything out. But because I had more space, I decided to utilize more space. And then I realized I could,
space.
It doesn't matter what I do. I could always use another, a little bit more.
I get it. Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So there is that. But that's a me problem. That's not I don't know how to solve for that. But what's also nice is
that's definitely a you problem, Nate.
It is. It's undeniably me. But what's also nice is, and we talked about it last week when Matt wasn't here, but Descent 3, my favorite. Descent is my favorite series of 3D shoot 'em ups. Although someone did tell me it's not a first person shooter because you're in a ship, but whatever.
6 Degrees of Freedom is actually the actual genre.
See,
right. It's the genre of what, one
Matt
game?
would know. I told you, Matt would know.
Yeah. But it's like what? It's like, well, there's like 2 games in that genre. It's because it's not a space flight sim. It's a...
No, but like space flight sims would fit into there. There's the spiritual successor, which is Overload, that came out for it, which is also in that category, which is done by the original creators, if I remember correctly. You're welcome, Nate, by the way. So now you can go.
No, I already looked at it at GOG. So it's you. You've already,
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yep. Anyway, so it's a nice workspace, not only for getting things done, but also if I have small projects, I can work on them right there. I don't have to like do something stupid or to try and, like, if I have to reprogram 21 switches in my house because a power surge knocked my power out, and the only things that were not backed up by battery, I had to reprogram. It's not like that just happened. Yeah. Because that did happen. I think it was last week. And I had a lot of water, rain, and it came up over the window. But that's a whole nother conversation for a whole nother time.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, there was a lot of rain. And so I put in a new drainage system. But that's not what I want to talk about. So now I have a great workspace. I can get things done when I get them done. I have extra space, so I can lay papers out if I have to, or drawings, or if I'm doing some 3D design, I got a space I can work out as well. Now it's not as nice as out here, but for small little things, when there's just a little thing I want to do, it's great now. I absolutely I am thrilled, and it was a great purchase, not a single regret.
Nice.
And that it's it really opened up the room. Actually, it made more space. There's less congestion in the room, and so I'm going to continue that trend and continue my purge, which I was telling Matt about over the I think the telegrams or something. But like I'm doing a bit of a purge, not just technology, but I'm purging things. I'm trying to get rid of things that are just unused, kind of the Marie Kondo thing. If I'm not enjoying them, we're gonna say goodbye to them, thank them for their time with me, and send them off to a better home.
So, Wendy, you know what that means, though, because I've done this multiple times. Mm-hmm. Purge means time to collect new stuff.
Well, no. To clarify, purge means I'm not getting these things I want until I purge. That's the real core, the crux of it.
So at one time, the things you're purging you wanted, so therefore you're going to have other things that you're going to get that you want currently that you'll end up purging again. Yeah, it's a never-ending cycle. Is all I'm telling you.
Yeah, there's seasons. There's seasons for everything, right? So you have a season of, let's say you have a season of retro, or you have a season of like goofy netbooks that you're no longer using, or you have a season of whatever it might be. Now the retro, I'm not getting rid of any of that. Not yet, not until I turn like 55. But but there are things like when I'm no longer using them, or they no longer serve a purpose, then I'm going to start. Yeah. I'm letting go of more things. So you can you'll see some things popping up on eBay here shortly if you want to look for Cubicle Nate on eBay.
Oh wow!
Not a plug. Yeah.
Like super serious about getting rid of it, huh?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I got a bunch of little things.
Here's the real question: are we going to see the Commodore 64?
On eBay?
Yeah,
No.
from you specifically.
No, I got to make space for more Commodore 64s.
That's the answer I was expecting.
Not necessarily, but just in case one might, decide to show up in my life. But I want to make sure this.
Hey, Nate, you know what
I
you
built
also
this
need to buy?
What's that?
Another Atari VCS.
I really actually want one. I mean, I really do.
I meant the one you already bought. You need another
I know.
one.
No, I have a 1977 2600 right there.
Yeah.
The VCS is a great machine. Nice plucky little machine. But so that's what's going on in my world. Making myself more efficient when I work from home or do any kind of work from home. And I've already been really enjoying that desk a lot.
It looks really nice. You shared a picture with me, and I think it looks absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, it's pretty great. Pretty great. All right.
It's one of my goals. One of my goals is to clean up and reduce. I know exactly what you mean by not having enough space. When I built this desk early 2020, it's 20 square feet, L-shaped sit-stand desk. And I'm like, this is going to be huge. This is going to be way more space than I need. And now I'm like, holy crap. Why didn't I make one of the sides longer? Because I could use a heck of a lot more space than what I've got.
So I think about that often. It's what is my problem that when I set out a plan to do a thing, I create space or whatever it might be. I get 6 monitors. I happen to just need one more monitors. It seems like, like with monitors, you need whatever you think you need, it's plus one. Whatever you need in desk space, it's probably that plus another 8 inches or a foot or whatever. So I'm not really sure. When you buy a slightly larger house, you wish you had one more room. That kind of sort of happened to me, 3 years ago.
Yep.
But anyway, it is what it is. When you have one nice workbench, you build another, and then you think to yourself, well, I could really use one more workbench. And I have thought about that, but then I have to rearrange some other stuff here. So
it's kind of when I first built this desk, I got rid of my multi-monitors, and I'm like, oh, this one 32-inch monitor is going to be fine. It's going to be great. And I realized, no, I really like having multi-monitors and then moving stuff around. So I went from, I think, 3 monitors down to 1, and now I'm back up to 4. And that's as many as the graphics card will hold right now. If it could take more, I'd probably have 6.
So I have a recommendation. If you don't need anything that has to be high performance, there's an article on CubicleLabs.com with this too. But DisplayLink works really well. That's how I got 6 monitors.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, you were telling me about that. Yeah.
And there are some
check that out.
There are some really good. I think it's Lenovo dock stations that have DisplayLink built in. They're not very expensive, and they work very well. I've tested them. Actually, I use one at work also for another additional monitor. I did the same thing at work. I just need one, the LG dual up monitor. That's like 2 monitors. That's really like 4 monitors.
Yeah.
So that'll do me just fine. I need another monitor.
Yeah. I know. I'm addicted to monitors too.
Yeah.
Hello, my name is Wendy. I have an addiction
a monitor
to monitors.
Yeah. I've been trying to quit. They say I was told I needed less screen time, so I decided to get more screens to see if I can cram it in a little bit quicker.
Does it? No, I spend just as much time here. Yeah. No, it hasn't changed anything.
Yeah.
Actually, no, it does. I think it does make me more efficient when I'm actually doing stuff.
So, Wendy, in fairness, you also in 2020, when you built that desk, were not doing all the video editing and stuff that you currently are doing. That does require
that is true.
More monitors for workflow and for better visual utilization of the space. So, in fairness,
Yes, yes. And I know Michael gets away with far fewer monitors than I have, but I like being able to see everything at once.
So Michael and organization.
Thing is, I can't say much about that because if you could actually see my desk right now, yeah, it's bad. My whole house right now is absolutely horrible. The whole thing
Again,
needs to be gone through
I
and
reiterate,
stuff.
Michael and organization. There's a reason Ryan gives him notes to make sure he's reminded of to do things.
I've now come to the conclusion that if it's not on my calendar, it's not happening. So I even like when we decide when we're recording this show, that even goes on my calendar. Like,
It has to.
Yeah, it has to.
Yes,
As my aunt was talking about, like, doing a barbecue, and I'm like, okay, well, when we go to schedule this, I need to have my calendar up. I don't make doctor's appointments or anything without my calendar already being up and ready to go. Because if I don't, I guarantee you I'm going to double schedule something. Yeah.
Yes, this is true. I have to use a calendar. If I don't have a calendar, I'm going to drop the ball on something else. Or taskless.
Right, yeah.
Taskless and calendars is what drives my life. Speaking of driving your life, you had a long drive recently. What is it? Are you doing are you like a relay race? Or are you
No.
over the road? Are you a speed racer now going trying to win some, what's that? There was some like there was a TV show about races.
I remember Speed Racer, but I didn't like he was on an actual track. I don't know. I vaguely remember watching it when I was a kid, but I don't remember a whole lot about the show itself. I know the other day we were watching one of the reruns of the British Top Gear, and they had a car on there that looked a lot like the Speed Racer car. Ooh. Well, at least it did until I looked up the pictures of the Speed Racer car, and I'm like, okay, there's some similarities, but not. Anyway, that's way off topic. So if I look exhausted, yes. If I look exhausted, that's because I am. We had a memorial service. It's the first time I've gone to a memorial service versus a funeral. I had a great aunt that passed away in January, and then they had a service for her the same weekend as Mother's Day. So it's in northern Idaho. And my dad and I were talking about going up to it. From my house, it's an 8.5-hour drive. And then from his house, it was a 6.5-hour drive. So on Friday, I drove 3 hours to his house, which was roughly like 181 miles. And then we got up at, well, I was up at 3:15 because I did this very, very basic makeup. I curled my hair. We were in the car by like 4:05 a.m. and pedal to the metal. We stopped in one larger town for lunch and a walk and made it to the memorial service, stayed there for 3 hours, and then turned around and drove another 6.5 hours back to his house. So we left about 4. We got back to his house about 10 p.m. And then the next morning, Mother's Day morning, I hung out with him for a little bit and then begrudgingly got back in my car and drove the other 181 miles home. So we did about 1,268 miles. That's not including our little detours there, or 2,040.6 kilometers. It was far. About total of 19 hours driving over the course of 3 days, with most of that being done on Saturday. I'm really glad we went. My dad and I had a good time together, got to talk about a lot of things, got to visit some family I haven't seen in a really long time. But yeah, I'm tired.
That's kind of a thing I noticed is we make the time to see relatives like when they die, and it's kind of depressing when you think about it. It's like, well, guess I'll see you the next time somebody doesn't make it. So
I have a cousin that the last 4 times I've seen her has been funerals. That's it. We keep saying we need to stop seeing each other under these conditions, but that just seems to be the way that it works out. So it was a beautiful drive. Northern Idaho looks a heck of a lot different than Southern Idaho. So I'm Southern, where we're mostly sagebrush, grass, and lava rock. And Northern Idaho is a lot more mountains and trees, tons and tons of trees, much higher elevation overall, with deep lakes that were made during the last ice age, snow melt that or ice melt that ended up staying inside canyons and stuff. So gorgeous, gorgeous area. Nice drive. Glad we got to go visit. But if I didn't have to get in the car for a whole week, that would be a fantastic. I don't have that opportunity because I've got places to go most of this week. So I don't get to avoid the car, but I can say that my grandma car drives quite nice. It did the 3 hours there and the 3 hours back. Fantastic. Got even better mileage than I was expecting on those highway drives. Just, straight pedal to the metal and go, no stop and go. So even though I still find it extremely ugly, and my husband asks me every single time he asks me about the car whether I still think it's ugly, and I'm like, yeah, still ugly, but it's getting better mileage. So I've always said that I'm not above driving an ugly car if it gets good mileage. And, well, that's where I'm at right now.
So I think what you need to do to the car, I don't think it looks ugly. That's my opinion. I probably have a similar opinion as Magneto. I think you should get the wood grain, like vinyl stickers for the side of it, like wood grain the whole side of it up, both sides. And then you need to get hubcaps for it, but then not have a hubcap on just one. They just get 3 hubcaps. And
so Nate, you're talking classic 80s. Classic 80s look.
Yeah. And then if you could possibly and
then it's the real mom-mobile.
Paint is kind of expensive, but you could probably do a vinyl wrap like an avocado green color for everything that's not.
No. If I was going to go through the work of painting it, and I said time and time again, I do not want a black car because I do not want to deal with how hot it's going to be in the summer or have to deal with putting up the screens. But the only thing that would make this one look better is if I painted it black.
No. Avocado green would be perfect. Or harvest yellow.
I like avocados, but I am not driving an avocado green car. No.
But it's the whole ensemble, though. The wood grain, avocado green, 3 hubcaps. That would make the car, that would bring it up to what it needs to be. Now, it's a car from the 90s or early 2000s,
It's 2000, yeah. It's 2000, but it still has like that mid-90s feel to it.
Right, it's the 90s momentum that brought in.
Yes.
Sort of the end of the life of that vehicle.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So just consider it. Just think about it. You don't have to say no now, but talk to Magneto about avocado green, wood grain, 3 hubcaps. I'm sure you could do it on the cheap too. The vinyl is not that expensive. You could do a vinyl wrap so if you get sick of it. It would protect the paint anyway. I'm trying to sell you on this idea here.
It is not working. Yeah, it's not. It's not working.
Fine.
Nate, you might be the only one for that level of nostalgia.
I never had one of those. Didn't grow up with one of those. But we did have a Plymouth Voyager with wood grain. It was white though, and I thought it was
See, we didn't have anything that looked quite like that, though. It looks a lot like the Cadillac that my in-laws drove for a long time, my mother-in-law specifically. And so when they were over here last week, my mother-in-law's like, I absolutely love your new car. Because it's right up her alley. Like, it is totally her style for a vehicle. So when I say grandma car, I'm not kidding. Like, it's a full-on.
But a car like that floats on the highway. It's called a boat for a reason.
It's comfortable. Yeah, it's very comfortable.
The ride is, as much as I love a minivan, the ride of an old boat is way more comfortable than a minivan.
So I'm not sure if I can keep this joke or line in here, but... Yeah, it's
Oh,
massive.
and also for those that are trying to figure out the reference of 1,200 miles, that is about a third of the U.S. that Wendy traveled in 19 hours. As far as
Yes, and
distance.
I talked to a friend who lives in the Netherlands, and he said that's almost doing his country north-south 7 times. So yeah, it was a heck of a lot of driving. Though, if I was in Texas, I probably wouldn't have left the state.
Yeah, probably not.
Nope,
So
wouldn't have.
So for a Northeastern boy, as a reference, your trip, me going from Maine to PA, that is me going back and forth. So I start in PA, go up to Maine, come back. That's 1,200 miles.
Yeah.
That's through like 10 states.
Crazy.
Yeah, because the states over there are a heck of a lot smaller than the states over here. Yeah.
Yeah.
See, and we did leave Idaho. The best way to get to North Idaho is to actually leave Idaho, go up through Montana, and then back into Idaho. So we spent on that Saturday most of that time in Montana, not actually in Idaho.
You know, you have to remove this from the show, but
Okay.
have you ever looked at...
Now, I traveled a long distance, but Matt, you have all this space. You have maybe way more, not necessarily terabytes, but definitely gigabytes than I traveled in miles.
No, well, I don't know. In gigabytes, you'd be right. So yeah, I am currently going through backing up all my data, as it were. So right now, at least on the system that I'm recording this on, I have, let's see, 30 something gigs attached to it, or terabytes attached to it. So I have two 12 terabyte hard drives that are plugged in via enclosure. So basically, a NAS, but more direct, what is it, direct attached storage, DAS, I believe is the term for it. And then whatever's I got on the system. Overall, I have 55 terabytes of space that I'm using.
A lot of space.
Or gonna be using.
Yeah.
All for backups. So for reference, the reason I have two 12 terabyte drives, those are being used to back up all my GOG games, which are getting super big as far as games sizes and stuff. As an example, Baldur's Gate 3, which is one of the newer games, that was 170 gigs to download for cold storage. That's not installed. That's cold storage.
Wow.
The way GOG works is it's 4 gig slices for every file. So if they do DLC or if they do updates, that's all separate files. So this has been a giant pain in the butt to do. But
yeah, I can imagine.
It is worth it. The other drives that I have kicking around are somewhere between 4 and 8 terabytes apiece. Right now, those are for media storage, which I am actually in the process of ripping all my Blu-rays and re-encoding them and all that stuff. I know, Nate, you just kind of leave you don't really re-encode them so much. You just rip them and call it good for Plex, correct? Or Jellyfin or whatever you're using at the moment.
Correct.
I'm a little different. I just give me the movie, give me the TV show. Don't care about all the ancillary extra stuff, whatever. I don't care. So yeah, I have a lot of space that is going to be getting used very quickly. And because some people think I'm like, why do you need almost 100 terabytes worth of stuff? And I was like, you have no idea how big games are nowadays. Right. It has gotten pretty bad. There was a visual painting style type game, like an interactive movie style game called As Dusk Falls. It's got a bunch of different choices, choose your own adventure, all that stuff's cool. The game is like a 65 gig download. Ooh. But it's like, for what? I have no idea, but it's a big game. So it's stuff like that. That's why I'm doing that. Now, some of these are copies, like the 2 12 terabyte drives. Those are clones of one another. So I have a storage device. I have 2 copies of each one. That's kind of what a lot of it's for. So like when I back up all my movies, I also back it up on the other drive that I have for it as well. So it's one of those, I could automate the process, but I prefer to have a little more granular control on some stuff I want to keep and some stuff I don't, kind of deal. But like my games, those are definitely ones that are it's like, nope, you're getting clones of one another every so often, and you're gonna be that.
Yeah.
Media, I'm not too concerned about so much as it's more of a rip and burn. So if I don't have it, it's all on my fault. But yeah, I was gonna say a lot of people think I'm weird for having that much storage space, but
I don't think it's weird at all. I think it's when I built my server 5 years ago-ish, almost 5 years ago, I set it up. I had 5.5 terabytes of storage. I'm like, it's going to take a while for me to use this. I'm at my limit now, and I have to make a decision as to what I'm going to do from here. I have an idea, but that's for another show. So remember that whole purge thing I was talking about earlier? This is all related to that. Yeah. So anyway, I don't think it's ridiculous at all. Having that extra buffer of space is absolutely necessary. Recently, I've purchased an additional SAN that's going in the plant in Texas that I work at, and that's a 10 terabytes of storage that's absolutely needed. And so it's not ridiculous to me. It's not ridiculous at all, and I can very easily justify why we need that much storage for the additional data we're going to be collecting on some processes. So yeah. It's I don't think it's ridiculous. I think it's absolutely totally sane. And I very rarely say this about you, Matt, but this is a very sane thing you're doing. So now just make sure you have a backup of your backup.
I do. Well, no, that's the whole point. I have 2. So I have the backup, then the backup, as you mentioned.
Nice.
I just need to get the 3rd backup, as every IT person will tell you to have.
Right. Yeah.
Well, yeah. But offsite from each other too.
Yeah.
No, exactly. So the reason, and I'm using hard drives. I'm not using SSDs or anything. This is all hard drive based.
Spinning rust. Yeah.
They are cheap as crap. I spent for the 2 $79 per 12 terabyte drive.
Wow. I'm also interested where you found those too.
Yeah, I think you need to share some links there, Buster.
Yeah.
Amazon, eBay. It's a lot of shopping. Amazon, eBay, Newegg.
Okay.
Like take your pick. So it's a lot of shopping.
Looking for the deal. Yeah.
Some of them are, I don't want to call them refurbs because it's not accurate, but they were pulled from working data centers, but they don't have they don't have a like super long life on them as far as like that was eaten away.
How long it was used? Yeah.
Yeah. So they were used in CCTV stuff. So like the read writes, it doesn't matter because they have like 10,000 something or whatever.
Yeah.
Form.
Sure. Yeah, not bad.
But those are the ones that I was looking at because those are the ones I was like, oh, those are cheap. Most of these are cold storage after I get finalized on them, so I really don't care.
Right.
So that's why I was looking at them.
No, that's a good plan, and I think it's totally fine. The drives I put in my server were all used. I had 6 2 terabyte drives. They were all used. There were 6 2 terabyte drives, and they've been running for 5 years now. They're still running fine. There's
nice.
I mean, and they were used. So, and they lived through a move and a couple floods, and they're still kicking.
Well, it's like the whole point of this was like, I had looked at like NASs and everything else. And honestly, I found for me in my use cases, direct attached storage was the better option. So I got a 2-bay direct attached storage device for like, I don't know, 40 to 60. I don't remember how much I actually spent on it. It wasn't super expensive. And the drives, so like all my backup solutions are like maybe $200 in for it. So to have now a lot of the other drives and stuff, that was stuff I already had as I've been trying to kind of combine down from random 500 gig hard drives and every other nonsensical thing I had kicking around after 20 years.
Right.
But I think it's been worth it. It's just been a long process and haul to that point. So, and it's trying to figure out, okay, like space to grow and space to keep kind of situation as far as certain things. So, it's like, oh, do I want this to be a problem in a year, or do I just want this to not be a problem for at least the next foreseeable 5?
Right.
And,
yes.
and that's as far as how often I buy games on GOG. I don't see it being a problem for the next foreseeable 5.
Well, that's pretty fantastic. You pretty much threw a spanner in the works on me for this whole thing. I had some stuff planned out, but now you sort of messed me up. So thanks a lot. Not in a bad way necessarily.
He's back to the drawing board anyway.
You're welcome, Nate. I have no transition for this one. I have no way to transition to that. So,
well, I do because I want one. So the framework is getting an update. Your framework or one's for work?
No, it's so what's getting an upgrade is my workspace that I use for my framework out here in this area.
Okay.
It already had its upgrade. I'm very happy with the upgrade. It could use maybe some slight tweaking yet. But before I had this machine here that I'm using, the 64 Imposter, I operated exclusively out of this desk space over here. I've moved back and forth essentially over a period of years. And that's where I had my Dell Latitude at one time. And then I bought a 1080p ultra wide. And then I had additional, and I thought just so I can have 2 screens, it wouldn't need a third. And then I ended up adding a third back in, just like you have as a problem. Well, the framework has a much higher resolution, much higher DPI than that 1080p LG ultra wide. And I happen to have, not really sure where it came from, a 4K screen that was just sitting here. Sometimes I collect electronics and I don't purge them right away, but it was a 4K screen.
Yeah.
And previously when I used it, I sort of felt like I had a problem with refresh rate. And then I understood that if you use Display Link, you get better refresh rates. And if you use HDMI, did I say it right? HDMI? Yeah. So I put everything, I move stuff around, using the best amount system. And I have a 4K screen and then a 4:3 ratio screen next to it. And then my framework underneath it. So now I have what should be essentially, so the 4K screen is like 4 1080p screens, essentially.
Yeah.
If you use tiling, then I have the screen off to the side for just whatever, and then the framework. So it works really well when I'm out here doing, when I have projects that require a workbench, everything else out here.
Yeah.
And so, in a nutshell, my framework has had 2 workstation upgrades, essentially. One in the house, and then out here. This one didn't cost me anything. I just moved some stuff around. And
nice.
It's been pretty nice to have the additional pixels I can use for, doing things.
Yeah.
So that was it. It's really short, and there's some other tweaking that needs to be done to make it better, but I'd adjust the height of the screen because it's a larger screen and everything else. So, and I will say I have it running at 60 hertz, which I think for a gamer, that's terrible. I don't know. But so everything's running at 60 hertz. I like that.
That doesn't matter to me. It might matter to Matt, but it doesn't matter to me.
Honestly, I still game at 1080p 60. I don't care. This is where I differentiate.
And you're not a real gamer. Yeah.
So I get why they care. I just don't. As long as I'm 1080p with good settings and a solid frame rate, I give crap about a frame rate over 60.
Yeah.
I'll be brutally honest.
As long as it's not glitching, as long as it's playable, yeah.
So no, Nate, I don't care.
Okay. So the refresh rate at 60 hertz, there's no screen tearing because it's running Wayland. And then I have the I can't remember what I scaled it at. I think it might have been no scaling on that, if I remember correctly. So between the framework, which is a little bit slightly higher DPI than that 4K screen, everything just moves around very nicely. So having the additional pixels is great. I do appreciate it. And this upgrade out here didn't cost me a dime.
Perfect.
Junk lying around.
Cheap is the best kind.
That's right.
Yes.
Speaking of upgrades, looks like you've been doing some shopping around on PC Part Picker there, Wendy.
That I have, and I'm actually getting a little bit frustrated right now.
Oh boy.
So I was actually sharing pictures with Matt too long ago about my RAM usage, and this was the one where I had done some extra things on it. So it was that episode of DL. I'd have to go back and look to see which actual episode that it was, but the one where he was flipping me a little bit of crap. So I put some faces on him at 2 different points, and I was at very, very high RAM usage. So right now I have 32 gigs of DDR4 RAM at 3600 with a case latency of 16. Okay, so that's what I've got. So as I'm trying to find something similar but with more size, that's where I'm running into issues. Like I get dropped down to 3200, but some of that is that at the case latency of 16, some of it is like all the way up to 18, and I'm getting frustrated in general just trying to find RAM, and I'm stuck between shopping around and trying to find what I can get for the best price and getting the most RAM. And then in that panic stage, as I've been editing and working for a while, and I'm seeing 98% RAM usage and going, okay, I'm going to have to shut everything down and reboot before I render, or else the render's going to fail. I'm really walking that line right now as far as pushing my RAM to the limit. So do I go ahead and just bump it up to 64, or do I go out and do 128 gigs? I'd prefer the 128 over a jump to 64, but then prices still seem like they're crazy as far as RAM goes. I don't know if it's just me. I haven't bought RAM since early 2020. So I don't know if it's just been a few years since I looked at it, or if it's still pretty high. I kind of had my eye on some on Newegg. I think it's actually still in my cart. And there I did find some. I think it's 3216. Yeah, 3216. I can get it in 64 gigs for $130 plus tax and shipping. Or they had another Corsair pack, and it's the low profile, which is nice because I do have that monster air cooler on there. So you could do that. Or it's still 3216, 128 gigs for 265 plus, of course, tax and shipping.
So looking at some memory out there, I think what you really want to go with is an RGB color RAM. I think that I'm looking this Trident Z RGB, DDR4 3600. You get 128 gigabytes for just under $300. A little bit pricey, but when I weigh that at what I've paid in the past, it's really pretty much on par. It's not too far off. But I think
not too far off. Okay.
No, I think
RGB you
RGB
offered
might be
your son to pay the offset for his RGB. Would you pay the offset for mine? I expected a no from you.
I would consider that, actually. Just so that, but you'd have to promise that you have it vomiting as you're working.
I would have to have it turned on. Oh, goodness gracious. I'm probably still going to have to say no.
I understand.
Well, I mean, for the most part, you really wouldn't be able to see it because literally my cooler is so big it covers part of the RAM sticks. So you wouldn't actually see much of it if I actually did have Rainbow Vomit in there on my RGB. It is turned on my motherboard, and I believe it is turned on the graphics card that's in there, but they're set to just solid red. They don't actually flash colors. They're just a steady color. I do have Rainbow Vomit on my mouse, and it goes between purple and red. So, I mean, I do use some of it, but nothing super
Wendy,
flashy.
let's be real. The only reason you use the gamer mouse is because of the higher DPI that you can set it to. So when you do,
Yes. I'm all about the high DPI on my mouse. Absolutely. Especially with 4K monitors. You bet your buttons I'm all about the high DPI.
and if you want to get even smoother movement, you can mess around with mouse weights and all that stuff if you want to go that route.
I do have it weighted. I do have all 3 weights in it. I do like a little bit of a heavier mouse. That's just me.
I rest my case. So as far as RAM prices, RAM. So just looking at it,
so it's just me being cheap then,
more or less. Not gonna lie.
Okay.
So because like you got to remember most things that are shipped now, 16 gigs is the standard, more or less.
Yeah.
That's the standard. So that's gonna be your base price to start, and that starts around like what, $35 to $40, give or take. I haven't currently looked at 16 gigs of RAM, but 32 gigs was, I think it was like not super expensive. So it's like, and I
like think that's why I went 32 gigs back in 2020 was it really wasn't bad price wise. And now, like I said, I don't have a choice. I have to increase the RAM.
So my question is, how many sticks of RAM can your motherboard support? Is it 2 or 4?
I got
so
4.
you can get so you can go with 432 gigs sticks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep. So that's where that 128 gigabyte kit of 4 comes in at $265 plus, of course, tax and shipping.
Yeah, so, $265 or technically it's $264.99.
It's $265. I'm rounding up. We're using nice even numbers. Yeah, nice even numbers. I don't know. The thing is I'm also needing more desktop memory and not in the solid state drive category and not the spinning rust. I have multiple SSDs in there, but a lot of them are right around that 250 gig range. And I'm just running out of space. And this is stuff that I access on a regular basis. So I want it to be on that solid state, easy to active. Words are difficult, as we stated from the beginning of the show. So easy to access and fast read write speeds. That's what I'm thinking.
As far as the SSDs, I know there was which one was it? Was it Transcend, I think, or Team Group? I'm trying to remember. There was one that I bought that was like 2 terabytes that I stuck in my minis forums. Mini PC that was super cheap. I mean, like for an SSD, like NVMe SSD, not like an M2 or anything. Like
I've got another.
I'll have to send that.
I've got another NVMe slot. So yeah.
So it was like I think it was a 2 terabyte SSD too. So that'll give you
cool. Because I have one on my board that's a 1 terabyte, and so it would be fantastic to either bump them both up to 2 or at least add a second one that's 2.
So my only other question as far as the RAM upgrade though would be, what do you plan on upgrading your CPU and motherboard stuff anytime soon?
No.
Do you want?
No, that's not happening anytime soon.
So I was going to say,
because the next upgrade would be a GPU again, because I am really enjoying this GPU I got from you. As far as performance goes, I don't know that there's a big performance jump overall between the 2 that I had, but it does give me access to some of those AI processing functions or them working faster. Just for DaVinci, like the rest of everything else, I think it's a 1-to-1, but that to me makes it worth it to continue to use it, if that makes sense.
No, I know what you mean, because there's specific AI functions in the RTX cards that Blackmagic, for those when we say DaVinci Resolve, it's Blackmagic that utilize a lot of the AI stuff. I know there was just recently the last update for Resolve that they just added a bunch of new AI stuff
Yeah,
as well.
19 just got some, and I actually played with that on a secondary drive. Actually, the last episode of DL, the one where they talked to Glorious Egg Roll, and the last episode of LOL was edited on the public beta 2 of DaVinci Resolve, and it worked absolutely fantastic for me. I, didn't even consider it a beta with as smoothly as everything ran for me, and I like those additional features. The one AI feature that I use the most, and I use it across pretty much all of the shows on the network that I edit, is the voice isolation one. So when we accidentally bump the microphone, or Matt's chair gets extra squeaky, and yes, that sucker does, I can cut all of that out with the voice isolation, which is fantastic.
That is fantastic.
Yeah, now if NVIDIA would just bring that NVIDIA Broadcaster essential functionality in the app that they have in Windows over to Linux, instead of Blackmagic doing it solely in DaVinci, would be fantastic. But no, that's cool. That functionality is there. I only asked just because of when your next upgrade is kind of determines what you should probably do.
Because if that case, then I'd have to get DDR5 because if I was upgrading to a different board, which would make that a thing. The highlight is, I guess you could say, that the guts of this current system, when I do upgrade to a newer CPU and motherboard, will actually go into the kids system. So whatever RAM I get this time will still be useful years down the line in the system that the kids are using. So it's not like the hardware won't continue getting used. Even if for some reason in 6 months or a year, and I'm like, holy cow, this is an amazing deal on this CPU, whatever, then at least I know those parts are continuing to get used in a system in the house.
Yeah. I totally understand that.
Yeah.
Well, that's pretty cool. Do you have anything definitively picked out for your larger SSD? You said an NVMe, or you just open NVMe, or
I'd go NVMe or a 2.5 inch. I've actually looked at both. I'd kind of like to go with something that was 4 terabytes. I would prefer to have 2 4 terabyte drives, but I have enough space that I could do several 2 terabyte drives and be just fine. I've got a massive case that I think I've got one M.2 and then all 6 SATA ports active. So I just need to take some of those storage options, make them larger so I can consolidate some things and have room for additional items to use in there. I'm kind of running out of room once again. I seem to be a broken record where it comes to that. I'm constantly saying, hey, I'm out of room, but I feel like a Michael. I'm out of room. I'm out of room. Well, believe it or not, I'm out of room. So
I understand.
Time to get more storage.
I understand. I'm at that spot too for my server right now. So I get it.
All the hard drive things at the same time.
Have you considered playing with ZRAM at all?
I haven't thought about that. I mean, I do use that on here on my Linux systems, but I haven't played with it much.
So that might yield you a little bit of extra space for things, if
a little bit of headroom.
Yeah, a little bit, just to get you by until you can, pull the trigger.
Yeah, figure out what I want. It's kind of one of those things that I don't really want to spend the money, but I'm also stuck in a situation that I'm afraid if I don't soon, then I'm going to be going, well, nothing will render.
Mm-hmm. And that's
so I don't know. Yeah, that's definitely no fun. Definitely no fun, especially when you're working with deadlines. But I'll find something, and when I do, of course, you all will be the first to know. Magneto will be the last. Now it's your turn to toss in your 2 cents on today's topics. Hit the discourse form. Drop us a line under this video or on the contact form by visiting tuxdigital.com/contact. If you'd like to hang out with us on our preferred social media, see the links in the bottom of the show description. Find other great shows like Fit and Fueled, Destination Linux, Linux Saloon, and so much more at tuxdigital.com. Show off your love for your favorite podcasts and shows by visiting the Tux Digital merch store. Michael actually got around to creating a new one. You can grab yourself some awesome swag like the Gamer-centric I paused my game to be here shirts. Thankfully, Matt did. We were enjoyed having him this week.
I tell you what.
Or you could join hashtag Team Wendy with some Sinister Wendy swag. No comment from the peanut gallery?
He fell asleep at the wheel.
Granted, if you've seen the one episode of DL, if you want to play, I can play back, right? I'm not above a good joke.
It's not sinister. It's evil.
I have to go back and rewatch it because I was listening to the podcast as I was driving. I thought it'd be better if I didn't watch the podcast while driving.
Yeah, you shouldn't watch it while you drive. Definitely don't watch it while you drive. But it is a fun one to watch if you can. I did go ahead and make his drool meter, and then when he was flipping me crap towards the end of the show, then I definitely had some additional fun. When you flip crap at the editor, they flip back, just not when you can rebuttal.
Don't upset the editor. You will lose.
That's right.
You always lose.
Thank you for joining us. We'll be back next time with another awesome episode of Linux Out Loud. Until then, keep the banter friendly, the conversation somewhere near topic, and have fun doing it.
It's optional.
It's optional.